let me do it, mostly because if somebody didn't do it, it wouldn't have happened, and I thought it was an important part in the movie. The ending of the film was a huge conundrum. Wes wanted Heather to come out of the house, turn to her mother and say, "Well, God, I had this very strange dream last night," and then go off to school. But I didn't think as a commercial matter it was the kind of thing that was going to work. In the good horror films I've seen, there's always a twist at the end that scares you a lot. I begged him to write some kind of twist.
There you go, ready, and action.
Bob wanted a car to pull up and Nancy to get into it and then see Freddie at the wheel.
Mom! Mother!
We had a lot of arguments about that.
Wes said, "That's terrible. Well, it's really bad. You're screwing up the whole thing." And so he tried, and I tried, and we all were working on different things.
It is a little disconcerting shooting all sorts of different endings as an actor. Who's in charge here? Let's just make an ending. Let's just get this over with.
Bob wanted to have a hook for a sequel. I thought it was demeaning to the picture, didn't need it, and all those things. But I have to say, was very grateful to Bob for making the picture possible. So we reached a compromise. Freddie wouldn't be driving, but the car itself would have Freddie's stripes.
And then you cut to the mother, which is one of my favorite things.
Bob, we have to have this last shot of, pulling Ronnie Blakely through the door. You don't need that shot. Give us one shot. Okay, you can have one shot. And so we rolled, and that thing just flew through that. I don't know how they did it, but, it was one take, and we were out of there. We shut down, and that was it.
The editing was done in New York. That was obviously because we didn't even have an office out here at this point.
The first time I saw the film, Bob and the editor and I sat in a screening room, and they rolled the film. Film finished, and the lights came up, and there was a long pause, and then Bob turned around, put his arm over the chair. I'll never forget this, and looked at me and said, "Do you think there's a film there at all?" I said, "Yeah." I think we cut for, 4 or 5 weeks. Suddenly this terrific film emerged.
It was intense, but very, very exciting. The big challenge was how much to show of him physically. We didn't want to overdo it in terms of the scary thing in the movie being too much in your face. And of course his voice was so good as well that he was able to create tension without seeing him.
One of the really effective things about this movie is that when you're shifting between the nightmares and dreams and actual reality, it's not that obvious.
I thought it was great what Wes was doing, because half the time I couldn't tell what was a dream and what was reality, even in the dailies. It fed in beautifully into what we tried to do editorially, which was kind of seamlessly go from reality into dreams. I think it played into the movie in a really wonderful way, so that often you wouldn't quite know where you were. The sound of Freddie's fingers rubbing on metal. Wes spent quite a bit of time with the sound editors getting just the kind of sound that would make your spine tingle.
Then we hired a composer, Charles Bernstein, who turned out to be brilliant.
This was a very low-budget situation. So our early conversations were kind of about how we were going to do this thing on very little money. I suggested to Wes, maybe I'll do this thing at home, and I'll play all the instruments, and I'll sing all the parts. I think I can do this thing without an orchestra.
I want to have a theme to the music that is unmistakable and that we can have reoccurring throughout. And I'd written this little doggerel thing in the film, 1, 2, Freddie's coming for you, 3, 4, better lock your door. I said, maybe you could set that to music.
Da, 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 da.
1, 2, Freddie's coming for you.
It's very thematic, but I wanted it to have a melody. Da da dee da 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 da.
We had to deal with the rating board, which made us cut some things they didn't like.
I tend to block bad memories, but I do remember that the whole blood coming out of the bed had to be cut short. And I know that we had to cut short Amanda when she hit the bed. There was a big splash of blood. They made us cut that off very short. It was extremely painful to have to do that. I still, to this day, hate that sort of censorship.
I really started getting excited when we took the film to MIFED in Milan, which is a foreign film sales convention. All of the skeptical investors and home video people and all the yada-yada, all of a sudden they would get very quiet when they walked out. Everybody had a sense that this was a film that was really going to work.
Everything is together. We've got a release date. Publicity was out and the TV spots and everything had been done. It was a big deal for us. The week before we were supposed to open, the lab we were using wouldn't release the negative because they hadn't been paid. We didn't have the money to pay them. Bob somehow worked out some kind of deal to pay the lab all of their costs. Bob got the movie made because otherwise there would have been no prints on the screen. That weekend the film did well. I think it was #1.
Beyond any expectation. It just became a big hit. Wes was a wonderful director, and Bob Shea is fabulous. We have a new producer in town.
It's a hit.
People were lining up down Broadway to see this movie. It was like live theater. I mean, people were running down the aisles, talking to the screen.
Don't go there, don't go up the stairs, you know, girlfriend.
Don't fall asleep, he's behind you.
They were seeing something that they had never seen before. It was a confirmation of all these things that Wes had been trying to make people understand for years. He was so right.
As it played, its reputation grew.
All over the country. It wasn't just a New York movie or a Los Angeles movie.
Nightmare on Elm Street played for everybody in all cultures because everybody has to fall asleep at night.
It became a cultural phenomenon.
I did a show once with Robert, and as soon as Robert walked out, the kids stood up and started chanting, "Freddy, Freddy."
I have never liked him in the way that his fans liked him. I always felt like he was like the sickest, most depraved, disgusting, evil, devil character. That's what's wrong with our world. Are the Freddy Kruegers in our world.
I was watching television one night, and the President of the United States referred to Freddy Krueger.
The truth is that when you take a walk down our opposition's memory lane, it starts to look like Nightmare on Elm Street.
It's become part of the culture. You have no control over that, and it goes where it's going to go.
Through video, it had such a huge following. That's when people would come up to me, and I was like, oh my gosh.
There's millions of fans now. They just love every single moment of that film, and they've memorized every line.
This is just a dream. This isn't real.
And then there's girls who really love Nancy and are inspired by her strength. It's just amazing to me.
I don't think it's an accident that A Nightmare on Elm Street would come to be made in the mid-'80s. We had AIDS, we had an economy that was going to collapse, and in the midst of this you get this vision. All right, we're going to show you Elm Street.
It's the disintegrating middle class, the single parents and alcoholic parents and neglectful parents. Freddy's punishing white bread America.
This is a film about people being put in jeopardy by lies.
You knew about him all this time? And you've been acting like it was something I made up?
Freddy wants to destroy you because you are innocent in your youth and you have your whole life ahead of you.
Freddy kind of spits the last minutes of adolescence back in the faces of his victims.
You die. Freddy Krueger is in everybody's mind, the boogeyman. You think of Freddy Krueger.
I always think Freddy's in the parking lot when I'm walking in my car at night. You know, I hear an elevator and I think Freddy's going to step out of it. I dream of Freddy all the time. It's a terrible thing. It's a terrible thing.